Hey guys, in this video I'm going to show you how to take some old windows from your home or garage and turn it into a really pretty accent or decorative piece for your house. Here's a picture of the window before. Sorry, my dog's gnawing on a bone. So the first thing I did was take off the locks. This I struggled with because I was holding the camera with one hand and trying to do it with the other, but got the locks off. And then I applied my first coat of milk paint. Milk paint you can buy in the store. Usually it has like a bond in it. I buy the powdered stuff off of Amazon. It's just called old-fashioned milk paint. It comes in a powder, so you mix it 50-50 with water. So if you use like a 1/4 cup of the powder, you'll add a 1/4 cup of water. You just got to make sure you mix it really well. You will get lumps if you don't. Some people use a blender specifically for milk paint, or one of those electric mixers, which is what I use. So basically I'm just kind of slopping on the first coat. I'm not too worried about being precise or even getting it on the glass. There's a video within this video coming up where I kind of go over that and why. But yeah, we'll just get that first coat on, let it dry. I believe I did 3 coats on this. Okay, so now I'm doing a 3rd coat of this milk paint. Depending upon the piece, I'll do 1, 2, 3 coats. Just kind of depends, but I do want a lot of white on this because it is going to chip, and I am going to be sanding away some of those chips. Some people like to prime these pieces too. For example, they'll paint the whole thing white or another color underneath and then go over it with the chippy milk paint. But when it has darker wood under it, I just prefer to paint right over it. It does stick, so I don't really worry about that. I'm not really too careful with my brush strokes either because you want that kind of old authentic look to it anyway. So some people will also tape up the glass or the mirror if they're working on a mirror too. When I'm working with clay-based or chalk-based or even milk paint, basically any mineral-based paint, I don't really worry about it too much. It's just time-consuming to tape everything up. Plus, I'm not a huge fan of taping everything up. But I can also take a razor blade to this and just literally scratch all that paint off. So I'm not too worried if I get it on the glass or not. So this will probably be the last coat I do on this. I'll let it dry and get chippy, kind of like this piece is doing right here. All those nice little chips, and that's what we want because then we'll go over it with probably a light 220 sandpaper, I'm thinking, for these particular pieces. And what it's going to do is it's going to pull back all those chips, and then you'll be able to see the wood underneath. So it basically looks like this window or that bench has been sitting outside and has been weathered for quite some time. It's actually pretty easy to get this look, I think. You don't have to be too precise, too careful, and it turns out really neat and authentic looking. I am adding a transfer to these windows. I ordered, I think it's like an old 57 truck transfer. It's got flowers in the back of it. So that's the one I'm going to be applying, I think, to this window. The other one I haven't really planned for as far as the transfer, but it'll look neat either way. Okay, after the paint's dried and kind of chipped, I ended up just using a 120 sandpaper grit on this, so then I'm just kind of going around the edges and just sanding back all those little chips, and then you can see all the wood underneath. I really like this look. Oh, yep, here I am with my scraper. You can use a razor blade too, but I use either, and it just easily scrapes up all the paint. This is really good for if you use mineral-based paint. You don't want to tape everything off, which I loathe doing. So, like I said in the video, I don't mind if I get it on the glass because just scrape it right off. Okay, next step was to wash the windows really well. You always want to do that on a glass piece, especially if you're going to put a transfer on it. And just make sure everything's clean and off. And there's the transfer. I did have to measure it out, cut it down the middle, and whatnot before I laid it on the glass. The transfers usually come with like a little wooden stick or plastic stick that you can rub on there, and I could not find mine, so I just used a scraper. I did have to be really, really careful though with that putty knife, so that the corners didn't tear the transfer when I applied it. And then once it's applied, you want to go over it with your hand or a cloth and just make sure you get out any air bubbles. After the transfer, I flipped it over and I used my Mirror Effect spray paint and just kind of sprayed the back of it. And then when that dried, I took a couple of my paints and I just stippled color on the back. So anywhere that the mirror spray paint didn't hit, I wanted just little bits of color kind of poking through. I think for this one I used Cowgirl Coral, Farm Fresh, and Mint Chip. A lot of this you won't actually see from the front, but the little, if there's any little cracks, which I did kind of put in, or air bubbles that I did pop, and you could kind of see through, the color just kind of blends in. And this is the finished product. I did coat everything with a polyacrylic, just to seal everything up really, really well. I did add the Never Ending Story transfer on here too. So I did a transfer over transfer in the top right corner, as you can see right here, and then in the lower left corner. I felt that those areas were a little bare, so I just took pieces from my Never Ending transfer, which is just script, and just kind of added those to the piece. And that's it. Hope you enjoyed the video, guys. It was a fun piece to do.